Okay, so welcome everyone. We're going to get started with our hands-on teach module demo and webinar, and you'll be able to follow along at home because you all have access to this. And we're going to be covering lesson plans, modifying content, quizzes, and flashcards. And there's going to be a bunch of folks from the Microsoft Education team. My name's Mike Tholfsen, and I work on the Microsoft Education product team, and we build a lot of the things that you're going to see today. And we've also got some of our engineers from the team who are also going to be helping answer Q&A. So if you look at the top of the toolbar there's a little Q&A button. If you have questions, we have answers, hopefully, but we'd like you to file them in the Q&A tab. The chat goes by super fast, but the best way to do it is using that Q&A tab up at the top. There's a little button there. And Max, if you want to advance the slide, I believe I'm going to hand it over to Max Fritz, who's a colleague of mine, and he's going to be walking everyone through lessons. Hey, Max, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, everybody. Excited to have you all here. Let's get going and talk about what we're here to talk about, which is our new Teach module in the M365 Copilot app. So just everybody knows some terminology, what we're talking about before we get into things. We are here talking about the M365 Copilot app, which is an app available on web, mobile, and desktop that lets you use all of AI tools in Microsoft 365. As the name might not imply, it doesn't require any special paid license. Everyone here, in theory, has an education license with Microsoft 365. If you know licensing, you might sound A1, A3, A5 might sound familiar to you. If not, don't worry. All of you should have access to this. If you go to office.com in your web browser, you will see a similar interface to what you're seeing right here. It might be slightly different, but it gives you access to using Copilot chat with the latest models, search and building your own custom agents, a create module for AI multimedia and images. And then what we're here to talk about today, which is exclusive to education customers, Teach. So hopefully when you go there, you're going to see Teach. So let's talk a little bit more about Teach, and we'll get into showing you how you can use it and how it works. So Teach is our home, our hub for all of the AI-powered teaching experiences that you can access in Microsoft 365, all in one place. This is meant for every educator on the planet to be able to go and plan their curriculum, create student-ready materials, and even interactive activities to engage with their students further and reinforce learning. They can even bring their own existing content and even align and adapt it to tweak the things like reading level and align it to standards and much, much more. This has been out since October. We are bewildered with how many of you love this, and I can't wait for more of you to try it. This is a follow-along webinar today. Hands-on webinar, as the title says. So the first activity I have for you is simply going to the link that you see on the slide that one of my colleagues will post in the chat as well, aka.ms/teach. So please, before we go any further, open up your web browser or your Copilot app if you already have it installed and go to Teach, or go to aka.ms/teach in your web browser. Now, if you don't see a similar interface to what I'm showing right here, it's because you don't have access to Teach, which could be for one of a few different reasons. We're not going to troubleshoot here live today, but you won't have access to Teach if you are not signed in as an educator. So if you're signed in as a student, that's not available to you. And you will not have access to Teach if you don't have access to Copilot chat. Teach relies on some of the same technology, and so if the AI for Copilot chat is turned off, then Teach will be turned off too. If you don't have access today, don't rush out of this webinar. Still follow along. We're going to share slides with you at the end. You will be able to do this on your own afterwards, and feel free to reach out to your IT admin. So with that being said, let's go explore Teach together live. So here I have open Teach right now. Now, again, my interface is going to be a little bit different than yours. We have some exciting new tools and functionality rolling out in the coming months, and I wanted to give you a sneak preview to thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to be bringing some sorting and searching functionality and more, but I'm going to walk you through the general area of the Teach module. So at the top, you're going to see teaching tools, which are sorted by category, which allow you to plan your curriculum, modify your existing content, build student-facing homework and assessments, and learning activities to reinforce learning and help students study. Once you've started creating some things, you're going to be able to see your history build out, which you can access, you can search through, you can filter for the kinds of things you've created. And then last but not least at the bottom, you're going to see resources, which help you learn how to use all of the tools you have as an educator or a school leader within Microsoft 365, including this Teach module, Copilot all up, our on Windows Learning Zone application, AI for Educators course, and plenty more. Do explore that. We're going to walk through one tool first here, and then I'm going to hand things off to some more colleagues who are going to walk us through more and more as we go. Now, there are a lot of teaching tools in here. You don't have access to necessarily all the ones I'm showing you here, but you should see coming soon for all the ones you don't. We're going to walk through 4 tools today, and we're going to start with lesson plans. It's maybe the easiest one for us to wrap our hands around. It's almost the most cliche example you see AI companies saying, oh, you can use our tool to create lesson plans. Well, we did that as well, but we spent a lot of time and care making a lesson plan tool that is built for you and is really based around good pedagogy and a user experience that hopefully you love. So if you're following along, again, go to aka.ms/teach if you're not here already, click on the curriculum planning tab, and then click on lesson plan. And you should see a user interface similar to what I have here. Here it's going to ask you for some basic things. Now, most of our Teach module creation tools are going to ask you for similar things. So do get used to this interface. We're usually going to ask you for your subject, grade level, and language. As you use the Teach module more and more, we're going to remember the pairs of subject and grade levels you used. So if you're teaching a variety of different classes or courses, you don't have to enter those over and over. You can just simply click on the history and re-enter those. We're going to ask you for a description. You do not need to be an AI prompting wizard here. If you look, we're requiring a minimum of 20 characters. That is a very, very short sentence to create a lesson plan from. Now, the more information you give us, the better lesson plan we're going to create for you. But you don't just have to type it out. You can actually click on Add Content, and you can add content from OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, or your local device. So you can click on this, and you can browse all sorts of files. We support text files, Word documents, PDFs, and PowerPoints right now, and we're looking forward to supporting more in the future. And then my absolute favorite thing is standards. So if you click on Add Standards, it's going to open a whole new world for you. We support standards from over 35 different countries, and in certain countries, we support down to state level or regional level, as well as many different international standards. So go ahead and explore the standards that are available for your region, and if there are not, we have a way for you to submit some feedback to us to add more and more standards. We are currently in the process of adding more and more standards literally as we speak, so stay tuned to that. The last thing we're going to ask you for is your lesson plan duration. So let's go ahead and fill this out. Now, you can fill it out in whatever way you want. You do not have to fill it out with the exact text that I'm using. But I'm going to go ahead and say that we are creating a lesson plan for science. We're going to choose grade 5. Now, I know a lot of you grade 9. A lot of you are sure going to ask about the grade levels and being more localized. We have plans to work on that here in the near-term future. Now, I'm going to say I want to create a lesson plan about understanding the structure and function of major cell components for our science class here. So I'm just going to paste in a small prompt that I already had. I'm sure one of my colleagues will be nice enough to paste this in the chat if you want to use the exact prompt that I used as well. But again, feel free to enter your own. It does not need to be as verbose. I'm going to go through the standards tool, though, and add some standards for the state of Washington in the United States that are relevant to this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, in the standard set, I'm going to type in Washington. There are my standards. Let's go ahead and choose grade 9. We'll choose science, and we'll choose life sciences. And I want to use molecules to organisms. I'll open up this standard strand, and I will choose these 2 individual strands here. We can choose up to 10 different standard strands from across different standard sets. I'll add those in. Let's say my lesson plans are a little more, my lessons are a little more unique in terms of timing. My school takes 55 minutes for lessons, so I'm going to type that in, and then I will hit generate. Now, I'm pausing before I hit generate because I want to make sure all of you have the time to do this as well. Again, you don't have to use my standards. You don't have to use my description or inputs. Any input standards are going to work for you. I will go ahead and hit generate now. And now, depending on the amount of context you provided, especially if you started to use files, this might take more time. But here we can see the lesson plan starting to stream in for us already. Every lesson plan is going to have objective overview with your inputs, including the standards if you had any, objectives and materials, and then time-based sections that are broken down so that 55 minutes that I gave it, it's going to break that 55 minutes into logical segments that I can use in my class. So here we have exploring the cell structure, comparing prokaryotic and I'm not a scientist, different types of cells, organisms, and an assessment and reflection at the end. Now I have a couple different things I can do here. I can say this lesson plan is great and save it to OneDrive immediately, but I'm actually going to take a pause and say, you know what? I want to do a little bit of changing of this overall lesson plan. It talked about colored modeling clay. That's awesome. I would love that idea. I don't have clay available, and this lesson plan is for today. So I'm going to go into our Enhance with AI sidebar, and I'm going to say, colored modeling clay, I don't have that. Please make a different version. I'm also going to say, you know what? I want this lesson plan to be a little bit more concise. I know this subject really well. I've been teaching it for years, and I just want some general ideas. So it doesn't need to be as verbose in the terminology it's using. And I'll regenerate it. Here we have a new lesson plan generating. You can see that material is gone, and it's creating a little bit of shorter bullet points for me to use. This looks great with one exception. The assessment and reflection isn't exactly right yet. Now I could go back up here and ask it to change that, but I'm going to drill in. I'm going to edit this manually. And I'm going to say the assessment and reflection that I don't want us to review answers in class. That's not my teaching style. So I'm going to delete that line item. But I would love for students to compare and contrast different cell types as a Venn diagram as part of a reflection. I love that idea. It's right here for me to use. So I'm going to click this button, and that is now added in. We'll move that up a little bit so it's in the relevant location. I will save this section, and now I'm set to go. Once I'm really happy with my lesson plan, I can change the title. I can go back to my previous different iterations before AI changed it for me. I can save it to OneDrive. Now I can save this in my OneDrive, or I can save it in a SharePoint site or team if I want to. You can choose which folder you want it to save in. I'm just going to save it in the root of my OneDrive here. And we'll go ahead and click Save. And now we have a lesson plan ready to go. Now the great thing about this is we're not creating this as some sort of special AI file type or anything like that. This is a Word document because we know you're choosing Microsoft. You like Microsoft for all the things we have to offer, and Word is one of those. So we are creating your lesson plans, and for that matter, any text that you generate in the Teach module as Word documents, which allow you to go and take things to the next level. So the Teach module did a great job with the content there. Let's open this up. But now I have the full Microsoft Word editor. I can open this in the desktop Word app if I have the desktop Word app, but I can modify this as I see fit. I can apply my colors and my branding and my school templates to this if I need to, whatever I want from this point, because it's a flexible Word document. I'm going to go back here though. I'm going to click Go Home. Well, actually, before I click Go Home, I want to highlight you can click Continue Editing if you want to create different versions of this, maybe in different languages or at different levels. But I'm just going to go home now. And what you're going to see here is at the top of the history, there we have our lesson plan that we can easily open anytime we need to in the future in Microsoft Word. So we're going to take a quick pause and let you make sure you have time. If you were following me intently and want to go try this out now and haven't yet, we've got a minute or two for you to try that as well while we actively answer questions in the Q&A.
And I'll just add, there were a lot of questions about standards. In the little standards picker, it might not be obvious, but you can type to search for your standards. So in the little standard dialog, like if you're looking for UK or England, you search on England, you'll find the standards. Or if you type in, the different countries. So a lot of you might actually find those standards that exist, but you need to use that little search dialog to speed up what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I saw some people saying it was blank. You do have to fill out all the standards. So it's going to ask you for the standard set, the grade level, the strand, all of that. So you need to fill out all of that to see the content show up.
Awesome. I think appreciate people trying out lesson plan. It's an awesome feature. Thank you, Max. So let's go into another functionality inside Teach, which is quiz. So this is based on forms quizzes. And of course, you can create quizzes in your LMS system you use, or use Teams directly. Now we added the ability for you directly in Teach to create a quiz as well and give us an additional functionality for us. So what we have in quiz is similar to lesson plan, the ability to add standards, to add content we're looking for, and it's at the right grade level, the language as well. So all those things are happening in quiz. And at the end of the day, the quiz itself is a forms quiz that you can use inside Teams, inside your LMS system directly, or share directly from Teach as well. So multiple options for you depending on how you use quiz today. So let's go through the experience of creating a quiz. Here we go. So inside Teach, and I know there's links in the chat about how to go to Teach, like aks/teach. You have a category called homework and assessment. In homework assessment, you have rubrics, which you can create directly here inside Teach or inside Teams or other solutions, or the new functionality for quizzes, which creates standardized quizzes with Microsoft Forms. So just as our friend Max was talking about the lesson plan, you can fill this out with your subject, your grade level, and language you want to use. And there's a lot of questions in the chat about languages to support. We are constantly updating those things to support different languages and looking at different locales like English, Australian, Canadian, and so forth, basically for different languages. So, but in this case, I actually done before. So I add my science, grade 9, and English US. You can use this kind of time saver right here. And for description, we're going to talk about cell levels. So in this case, I'm going to use my definition for a quiz. In the description, you can, of course, talk about what you want this quiz to be about. And also you can add content, just like lesson plan, for kind of ground your content as well. Like a pro tip in this description, you can also say things like, hey, I only want this to be no points, or no points, or I want to be multiple choice too. If you do those things, will automatically add that for you as well. Similar to lesson plans, we're going to add standards in this case. So this is about a science for cell information. So I have my next generation science standard, my grade I'm looking for, my science, life sciences. In this case, I'm looking at cells. It's all about understanding cells. I'm picking one or two different cells standards that apply to this cell functionality here. There's also the notion here as what we do with those standards is we're saying, hey, what is the intent of those standards? And that's how we kind of show the quiz itself. Inside quiz, we can choose a number of questions. By default, it's going to be a minimum of 10 questions that we have. You can also up to 20 questions for you to add beginning. And you can choose the quiz duration as well. So by default, the student will have unlimited time to finish the quiz, but you can add, if you want to, a set of quiz time for yourself directly in your quiz. So in this case, I can choose 30 minutes, or I can have the time custom time by just typing it myself. I want to have maybe be 25 minutes. So that's a quick way for you to set the experience of quiz timing as well. So what happens with quiz timing is when the students are opening up the quiz, they'll have a timer, and then we'll have a timer to kind of finish the quiz as they do as well. Alternative for quizzes, instead of a time quiz, you can choose to have a practice mode. This is all about students kind of testing it, trying it out, and get feedback on the right answers. More kind of early in the unit that you're planning yourself. You can use practice mode as well. In this case, I'm just going to add a timing for it to be 30 minutes. And I want you guys to look at the same time. You can try this at home as well, of course. So let's just try generate now and generate a quiz for us. So you see on top here, it was generating all the different questions. Again, I had 10 questions that I generated for myself. So there you go. I have my cell questions. I have a time limit, 30 minutes functionality. Again, I can change that if I want to. It's part of our setting stuff. It's automatically added your a set of different question types. In this case, kind of typical a written text or multiple choice and so forth. But again, you can add that in your description to only multiple choice or move things around. You can go into each of these questions, of course, and add images, change it. All the functionality is all built in. That's kind of a starting point for yourself. That's kind of the key thing about quizzes in this case here. So the quick way to do those things. And if you're happy with the output, you want to keep those things, you can click save on top of your screen to save this and save it to your forms experience. I saw a lot of questions in the chat about, do we support this inside Teams or inside LMS system? And yes, when we create these quizzes, you will see if I go into Microsoft Form here, all my forms is kind of created in TeachApp here. You will see quickly, it will have all these forms I created right now. So it's a quick way to find those things. And of course, if you're inside Teams, afterwards you can add it yourself. So that is how you create quizzes with Teach. It's a quick way to do this functionality inside Teach. I will give you a minute now just to kind of finish the whole thing directly for quizzes, but before we go to the next thing. So hopefully you can try this out. This is a question about, is there a way to pass from Google Forms quiz to this forms? I just saw those question. You can not use Google Forms directly, but you can always have content you as a content for your quiz. So as you create your quiz itself, you can choose different content type there.
And there's also a way to import Google Forms into quizzes that exist separately.
Oh, see, I didn't think about it. Thank you, Mike. So as we did right now, we went through the quiz question process. We use a sample science quiz, and of course use different standards in this case. We'll talk about the notion of practice mode and timed quizzes. So with that, I hope you all got that working for yourself. We will go to our next topic, which we just made available in Teach last week. So fresh off the presses, I guess, how we say it. So these are all features that we have for what we call modifications. So you have all this content already. You know, we talk about lesson plan or quiz. This is going to create content from scratch. Modification is all about modifying your existing content. That's the key thing about modification. And we added not one, but 4 different tools for us to use functionality. So I'll talk to 3 of them and show them here. And then we're going to go through the last tool together as well. Okay, so modify content has, I said, 4 different options. One is kind of align to standard, which takes your text and align it and change it to fit the standards you met in the first place. We're adding different instructions to help kind of task for different learning levels, like, add hints, examples directly for the students to use. Modify reading level is all about helping and change the text you have to modify the different grade level or year level you have in the first place. And then add supporting examples are tips, ways to add supporting examples for historic, science, and real life data. So let's go through them as we go along. So the first thing is align to standard. This is all about taking any text or file you have and take a standard and apply it to that kind of the spirit of that standard. So let's go through that experience. Right now, inside the Teach, you have something called modify. You can choose then align to standard. In this case, you can choose a text or file, but I'm just going to have this text to use. We're talking about students on the push toy car style. That's my idea for this thing here. I can add my standards right now. This is all about physical science, obviously. So I'm going to add my students understanding how about applied Newton example. Now we'll take that information and automatically change your kind of objective for your lessons, kind of step by step for that particular task as well. So what you had as an idea, we now added directly to your standards, and then we're adding an alignment map for you to see, so you can see kind of how we thought about the standards and how it aligns to that standard selected. So as a quick way to kind of change your document or idea into kind of standard focused stuff, and of course you can go back and change things in the lesson plan for us too. So a quick way of doing that. There we go. The next thing we're going to talk about is the TH, instructions. So it's a tough word for me to say. But this is all about adapt instructions. So you can imagine things you want to have like step-by-step instructions, maybe hints, examples for the students. So in this case, I'll do an example right here. Again, it's part of the modification area. So I can choose different instructions. I can choose a file or a text. It's the same kind of concept. In this case, talking about understanding the Newton's second law, I can choose which grade level I'm targeting, which scaffolding, like step-by-step or example answer or hints I want to use. In this case, I'll use step-by-step, make it concise and clear for them. And now we will generate those things directly for you. So you have that experience, and now it's kind of step-by-step instructions for you in your experience as well. You will see this soon also directly inside Teams assignments as well as LMS as well. I can change this instead of step-by-step. Maybe I have a hints example. So now we have the same kind of concept that you asked a question about, but now you give it just like, hey, give some hints to the students. So how can I think about solving this problem and continue ideas as well? So it's a quick way to give you how you can get that functionality directly into Teach as well. So we have it both here in Teach. You can copy and save this to your LMS system, and you will see soon this experience be directly into your LMS system as well. The next thing we added was the notion of doing using supporting examples. So this is basically adding a set of examples for whatever text you have. So in this case, I can choose to have my my examples, again, modify functionality, add supporting examples. In this case, I'm adding my text to it. I can choose, one or two or three examples I want to use to help students understand this subject. I can choose like real world or maybe scientific examples, how much detail I want to have for it. I'll take this text and automatically generate a set of examples for your choice as well. This is, of course, showing the real world example of how people think about Newton's law. I can also change this to maybe be a more of a scientific example and have the same example too. So a quick way to look at the same data for the student as well. Cool. Okay, so with that, let's go actually into creating one of this modification, and we're going to try something called modify reading level. In Teach, you can choose then modify existing content. We have all the modifications in here. And then the one we're looking for right now is modify reading level. You can choose text or file to upload. In this case, we're going to just add in our text. So it's like a science text that we have, and the way we think about those things, of course, is how maybe a student have a science class where they want to make it simpler for students to read the content, but also have the kind of key terms preserved. So you can choose the grade level. In this case, you can use grade 5, and then we have a set of key terms to use. We automatically add them for you, or you can add your own stuff as well. So in this case, I use force and then mass and maybe acceleration makes sense. And I can add glossary that allows me to have a glossary at the end of the reading level. I'll generate this. And then we have the same concept before, but now we also added a simpler reading level as well as a glossary for you as well. You can always change the grade level and also change the description that you want to have in here as well, but that's a quick way to how to use modify reading content. And while we are kind of waiting or having you guys try it out, and hopefully works great for you, an example, I'm gonna have my next colleague Samantha talk more about some more learning activities that's coming up next as well.
So also in the Teach module, so I'm going back to the teaching tools. I'm in that Teach module again. We looked at the modify content and curriculum planning. We're now going to come down to study aids and more. And this is where you can find your learning activities. I think we'll actually be renaming this to learning activities to make them even easier to find. But we have flashcards, fill in the blanks, matching, which should be coming very soon. But these are all study aids that you can create for your classes. So I can create interactive flashcards and fill in the blanks sets for my students to use and then see some insights on them. So we're going to walk through doing that together. They're pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully you've used learning activities tools before, but these ones ones are all built right into the Microsoft ecosystem, safe and secure, and they use our AI to generate flashcards or activities that you can then share with your students. And then you can see students who started, students have completed, and any cards or exercises that your students might be having trouble with. So I'm going to use some text, but you can also use any file that you have on your computer, a Word document, a PDF, a PowerPoint, anything like that, or you can paste in your own text. You can also see here, if you want to take a second, you can use Copilot chat, so you can navigate away from Teach and go to New Chat and generate some content to use. So I'll give everybody a second to select the content they want to use. You can't just say, you know, at least for now, generate flashcards about butterflies. You do need to give it a little bit of grounding content. So you can either generate some content in Copilot chat, or you can use any file that you might have on your computer. I'm going to go into flashcards and I'm going to paste in this content about butterflies. So again, I went into study aids and more and then flashcards, and I'll give everybody a second to grab this learning content here. Or not this learning content, but any learning content that you want. So I can also add content here, so I can add cloud files, or I can upload a file from my device. And like I said, what we support today is Word files, PDF files, text files, and PowerPoint files. We actually find it's super popular to use PowerPoint files to generate learning activities, which makes a lot of sense if you want to put your lecture slides or something in there. Now, when I come down, I have the language drop down, just like I did in those other features. And I have the ability to select my flashcard types. So I can do term and definition, question and answer, or multiple choice. And I can do any combination of these things that I want. In this case, I'm going to do term and definition and question and answer. Term and definition is just, you know, a word, and then the definition on the other side. Question and answer is phrased like a question, and then multiple choice gives you 4 answers, so you'll get a question and then A, B, C, D, or E to select from. All right, I'm going to go ahead and generate. Okay, wonderful. So this is the set of cards that it generated for me to start. I will show you exactly what it looks like to preview these and what your students will see. But a couple things to call out. Just like those Teach features, I have this Enhance with AI button on the right here, just like I did with lesson plans. So I can describe any changes that I want to make to this flashcard set. So use more descriptive language and explanations, simplify scientific terms, add cards about butterfly ecological roles. And I can also refresh those. So if I do not like this flashcard set, I can just describe any changes that I want to make. I can also change the card type and hints. So right now, as you'll see, there's a hint, and I'll show you how that shows up for students. But students can look at a hint if they are stuck. We think this is a super cool feature, so we have this on by default, but you can turn that off if you don't want there to be any hints on your flashcards. And then for each individual card, you can go in and edit it as well, or delete it. And you can add images. So this is super great. It actually pre-populates that image search term for you, but I can also search for my own word here. So I'll go through and add images to my cards. Ooh, 1 second. Yeah, there we go. So again, if I come down, select the card, and then select add image, there we go. I can add them. So it does a pretty good job here, I think, in pre-populating the search terms. Actually, I like that one better. We're also working on the ability to add custom images if you have your own images that you want added. Pollination, okay, great. But I'll also show how you can change the search terms. All right, so this is about butterflies being toxic. So I'm going to change that search term to toxic and add images that way. Okay, great. So I've added images to a number of my cards, and then I'll show you what it looks like to preview the activity. So I'm going to preview these flashcards, which is what my students will see. So I can flip the card to see the back of it. I can look at the hint, and then I can select if I'm still learning or if I know this. I know this. I'm still learning. And I can go through all of the cards this way, checking the hints. Awesome. Okay, so now I can see the cards that I'm still learning and the cards that I know. So awesome, I get to see that list. I can even retry the ones I missed here. And let's say I know all of these now. Yay, I know this. Okay, now I've gotten 100% of them. So this is obviously a smaller activity, but you can build bigger activities and you can share this out with your students. So I'm going to exit preview mode and save my activity. So once I'm happy with it, I'm going to go save. So again, preview mode was right up here and save is here. And then I can go view those flashcards. So once I view those, I'll show you how you can share those with students. So as you can see, I haven't shared this with anybody yet, but I have my students who've started, my students who've completed, and their average score in any challenging cards. So I can go ahead and select share. This will give me a join code where my students can go to this link, or I can just actually directly copy a sharing link as well, and I can post that anywhere in any learning management system or yeah, in Teams, wherever I want to share that with my students. I can just easily paste that link, and then I can see when my students have started it, have completed it, all of that. And I can go through and make any adjustments that I want to this at any point. And then when I close it, I have this learning activities web app where I can also see all of the learning activities I've ever created, which as you can see is quite a lot of learning activities for me. And here I can also create new ones, but all of this is fully available from the Teach module. So we recommend that you go here. Another thing to note, these learning activities are available for your students 13 and up if they have access to Copilot Chat. So students themselves can actually create their own learning activities. So you can also, if you know your students have access to Copilot Chat, which we can, drop some links about how you can enable that for your students, they'll be able to create their own learning activities on the Learning Activities web app. So that's just something to note as well. And I think with that, my time for showing flashcards is about up, but highly encourage, I'll go look through the chat. I'm sure my colleagues have been helping me out, you to try that and to try fill in the blanks, and matching, which is coming very soon too. These are super fun as well. And all of these can be shared with your students so they can go in and have sort of more engaging ways to practice their learning content. These features, all the Teach features, I don't know if we said this at the beginning, are all free for any educators with any education license. Same with students. You don't need any sort of special paid license to use this feature, but you do need to have access to Copilot Chat, which there are ways that you can turn that on for students who are 13 and up. And then, yes, you do have to log in with your Microsoft account to access this feature as a student as well. Microsoft.
Hey, Samantha,
really
where would a student even find this?
What?
Where would a student possibly find these flashcard features? I don't know where.
All right, great question, Mike. So the Learning Activities web app is, you can see that in your full list of apps. So if you go to office.com where we've been doing the Teach module, thank you, Max, for demoing, and you go into apps here, and then you hit all apps, and then scroll down. Oh, there's learning activities right under education. So students have a very similar view to educators here. They will have that same experience. They can go to all apps and go to learning activities. They can also bookmark the URL once they've gone to it for the first time, but it is available in that list. And also it's available.
Hey, Samantha, I'm gonna just interject here with another dumb question. That seems really complicated and no one will ever find it. Wouldn't it be cool if there was an easier way, like it was in the waffle?
I was about to say that. Yes, it's in the waffle. Max, can you go to Word? Thank you so much. So if you're in Word and you click on that waffle and you're an educator or a student, learning activities is going to be right there. So this is not just Word, but this is all the Office apps. So Excel, PowerPoint, Word, anywhere where you see that waffle, if you have an education license, it's very easy to get to learning activities. So there's a couple different ways to get there. Highly recommend to just kind of bookmark it if you think you'll be coming back there a lot. We're seeing a lot of students use this. We actually see about 2/3 of our usage is students, which makes a lot of sense. Students love to create their own study materials. Yeah, so please go ahead and access that Learning Activities app. And as you could see from Teach as well, once you create that learning activity in the Teach module, you can view that activity in the web app too. But yeah, that waffle trick is really cool.
And so these are the set of capabilities that we covered today. You see modified content, curriculum planning, We have study aids. As you see, Minecraft lesson plans are in private preview right now with our Education Insiders, which you'll be able to sign up for in just a second. And then we have unit plans that are also coming soon. So we'll be doing more of these webinars. This is kind of our first maiden voyage. So we had a couple of hiccups, but we'll work on those for the next one. We're going to start running regular webinars for training and learning. So Max, if you want to go to the next slide, another thing we highly encourage folks to do is join our Education Insiders program. And so you can get the latest product updates, you can join previews, we have monthly webinars. So there's a link here that's aka.ms/join EIP. And so if you go to that URL, there's a little form that you fill out, and then you can hang out with us here on the call. Product managers join these webinars internal, so it's a private group. I like to say, you're in the cone of silence and the circle of trust. We'll show you latest updates. You can meet other customers and educators from around the world, and it's a really cool program. So join the Educator Insider program. And then Max, if you want to keep going. If you want a copy of the deck that we used, here's a QR code. There's also a link. And I'll just say this, if 1,600 people try to go to this link at the same time, you might get an error right now because OneDrives are not designed to have 1,600 people hit them all at once. So you can try to download a copy now. If you can't get in, try a little bit later after the webinar, and it'll probably ease out on the traffic going to that URL. But you can use this deck. You can share it with others. We're going to put a copy of this entire webinar, the recording, onto the Microsoft Education YouTube channel, probably next week. And then Max, if you want to keep going, we'll just have a couple more resources. We've got full demos and YouTube videos of how to use the Teach module. We have a course on Microsoft Learn, so you can go and get a little certificate when you're done. And then we've got demos on how to do the creating a quiz and the flashcards. And I think there's maybe one more slide of resources at the end here. And then if you want to just look at our more generic courses on AI for educators, our classroom toolkit, other resources around Copilot, there are a bunch of resources here. And so maybe just on the last minute, Max, let's just go back to the deck that has all these links and everything in it with the QR code, and we'll just leave that up in case people missed it.